This video was created by VinylicPuma of VinylicPumaGaming.
What's up, guys? So, a lot of you guys that watch my Borderlands videos have been asking me for the longest time to switch things up from a lot of the Borderlands countdown videos that I've been posting for the last couple of months. So today, I figured I would do something different and just talk about a certain subject that seems to occasionally appear in various Borderlands communities like the Gearbox Forum, the Reddit Borderlands community, and even our community here on YouTube. And that is the idea of adding gun crafting or some form of a gun maker to the next Borderlands game. Now, this is a subject I've discussed in some previous Borderlands rant videos, but I figured I would go ahead and talk about it again in a little bit more depth than I have previously. I also think there is some confusion of the idea of like gun crafting or having a gun maker, so let me explain. Now, when we're talking about gun crafting, we're talking about the ability to build guns and weapons in a way that is integrated into the next Borderlands game's mechanics. While you can build guns and weapons with save editors and put those into the game with Cheat Engine on PC, that's not part of the actual game mechanics at all. A gun maker would be more of an editing tool that would allow you to mod the game and possibly rewrite and add your own stuff to the code. As you guys probably know by now, I would like Gearbox to include something like that for the next Borderlands game, but again, we're mostly just talking about gun crafting here that will be featured in the game's mechanics. Another quick thing, while I'm going to attempt to argue both points of view for whether there should or shouldn't be gun crafting in the next Borderlands game, I will admit that I'm partially biased towards the pro gun crafting camp. Because of that, I'm naturally going to be able to come up with more ideas on why it's a good idea as opposed to ideas of why it will actually be a bad idea. So with all of that out of the way, let's go ahead and discuss why I think it's going to be a good idea. So if gun crafting were in the next Borderlands game, it would theoretically allow you to modify existing weapons. You could either add or remove elements and other various weapon parts like stocks, grips, scopes, accessories, you get the idea. I could see this being really useful if you spent 2 to 3 hours farming for that legendary weapon you wanted, only to get one with less than ideal parts. So maybe you got something like a non-elemental Varrock assault rifle where you actually wanted a corrosive Varrock assault rifle. If you had a gun crafting system, maybe you could simply just change the weapon's element in the game, and it would be a part of the game's mechanics. Maybe you would need like a certain capacitor for weapons or assault rifles, but if you had it, you could simply put it on the gun and then you're ready to go. I also think if Borderlands 3 has a loot generation system that's more like Borderlands 1, where unique, legendary, and pearlescent weapons can be defined by more than just the weapon barrel, you could possibly create your own hybrid weapons. I think it would be really cool to be able to recreate something like the Ajax Ogre, the Nemesis Invader, or the Kyros Power Cyclops Sniper, especially if you could get the unique properties of effects from both weapons to combine together. So maybe the Dove or Infinity Pistol returns in Borderlands 3, but since it's defined by its barrel, and then maybe you've got another legendary like maybe the Firehawk returns, you could somehow combine the effects from the Firehawk on the Infinity, so you would have a Firehawk with infinite ammo, and I think that would be pretty cool. In fact, I'm surprised Borderlands 2 in the pre-sequel didn't allow the unique Fremington's Edge sniper sight to appear on other snipers. For those of you that don't know, the Fremington's Edge scope allows for boosted critical hit damage while you're scoped. So, I mean, you can essentially boost the damage of a sniper like maybe the Hawkeye or maybe the Trespasser, and it would benefit from this specific scope. But the way they've coded the game, you can't have those parts appear on that gun. legitimately at least. It may also be cool to make aftermarket modifications to weapons from other manufacturers, so maybe you could have a Jacobs assault rifle with the dull assault rifle body, and maybe that what this would do is it would give your Jacobs assault rifle the ability to burst fire, or maybe it just reduces recoil while slightly lowering base damage or something like that. Maybe you could have certain unique or legendary weapon bodies that allow certain weapon types to use a different form of ammo. So maybe you have a shotgun that can use pistol ammo, or maybe you have sniper rifles that could use assault rifle ammo. Maybe you would get less damage on snipers that are using assault rifle ammo, but you would also still maintain the critical hit modifiers that you had before. So it essentially would kind of like boost assault rifles, but it would also kind of nerf snipers in the sense that you're kind of getting the best of both worlds in a way, but you're also getting some disadvantages there as well. I don't know how many of you played Diablo 2, but there was an item in that game called the Herodric Cube that allowed you to make your own weapons, armor, and other items like gemstones and runes from existing items. You could take a subpar magic item that you just found on your travels and combine them together to get better versions of that item. Speaking of Diablo 2, you also had these items called runes, and when runes were placed in a socketed weapon, it would make a specific rune word. Some of these rune words would make otherwise normal or average weapons, even slightly above average weapons, incredibly powerful. The Enigma armor from Diablo 2 is a great example, since it allowed players to teleport without the teleport skill, which was only on the sorceress. Maybe Borderlands 3 could feature these like ERIDIAN runes, and what this would do is it might give some abilities like ammo regeneration to your gun, and I think that would be pretty cool. However, now that I've gone over a bunch of the pros, I want to go over some of the cons or negatives of having a crafting system in Borderlands 3, or whatever the next game is going to be called. One issue I could see arising from having more modular weapons is that the ability to make your own gun could break the Borderlands franchise's core gameplay loop. The idea here being that you play through Borderlands to level up, acquire new guns every couple levels, and then farm for legendaries and uniques once you reach max level. I think the fear here does make some sense. If you can just create whatever you wanted, what's going to stop you from building a Bandit Norfleet shotgun SMG that just destroys everything? You would obviously need to have some kinds of restrictions if you did have a gun crafting system or modular weapon system. I could definitely see players spending less time farming for the specific perfect version of a gun if you had the ability to craft or modify your existing weapons. Something you'll notice that the developers at Gearbox liked to do with Borderlands 2 and even the pre-sequel was to increase player time. Spending an hour or two farming or grinding for a gun does increase player time. Then again, I would also argue it depends on how gun crafting would be implemented. Are you just going to let people add guns ad nauseum, or are you going to require them to farm for specific parts in order to create the guns that they want? Gun crafting could also break the illusion of a bazillion guns that's frequently presented in the marketing as well. At the same time, if you've played the game long enough, I think you will eventually start to notice that there aren't really 87 bazillion guns in Borderlands 2. There's really only about 200 or so. It's just that Gearbox is counting a gun with a different weapon part as a different gun. So if you have two assault rifles that have identical parts except for their stock, there's still two different guns. The final thing here is that gun crafting might make the game a lot more complex. Farming for a gun right now is pretty straightforward. Find bad guy, kill bad guy, and maybe the gun you want drops. If not, you rinse and repeat until you get what you want. If you suddenly have to start farming for like hidden weapon parts or something like that, I mean, that's going to make things more complicated. Do you know if you have enough parts? Do you have the right parts? And if it's not very clear, it's going to get really confusing for a lot of people. Like I said, I would like to see gun crafting implemented in the next game in the franchise. What I will say is that the players that are concerned about it do have some points that are worth considering. There would obviously need to be some restrictions in place to limit or prevent certain combinations. You also wouldn't want to break the core gameplay loop of Borderlands either. Even still, I think if implemented properly or correctly, I could actually see this potentially increasing playtime. Collecting things is a big part of Borderlands, and collecting specific weapon parts to create guns might be a lot of fun. Modifying weapons with parts you collected would also be interesting. Ultimately, I think it's up to the guys at Gearbox Software, but what I will say is that I'd like to see something like this. I think with the proper balancing, it could work, and it would be an awesome new and fresh addition to the original formula that we all like. Alright guys, that's going to pretty much wrap up this particular video. If you like this video, please be sure to leave a like and let me know, what do you think of this idea? Do you think gun crafting is cool? Do you think it's lame? Or are you somewhere in between? But again, guys, take care, and I'll see y'all next time.